One of my sons said that back to me. I reached an age where my children are telling me back what I
Bim bam bim bam bam bim bam bam. Ay 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 ay. Okay, so let's try to keep to our times. In other words, 12:30 to 1:30, Mr. Shem. Okay. And so we're going to start today with Elul on page 39 in the Sefer Leva Shamayim. Okay. And a lot of this material we've done already, and we're going to sort of try to cover some material that we haven't done this year in the previous years. Okay? So, Shamayim va'aretz mitkavim b'chodesh Elul. Heaven and earth are getting closer to each other in the month of Elul. So, says Reb Shlomo, Etzleinu Am Yisrael lechol chodesh yesh kol kach harbe mashmaot. In the Jewish tradition, among the Jewish people, every month has a lot of meaning. Chodesh Elul. Acharei sheMoshe Rabbeinu shavar et haluchot, v'shiva asar b'Tammuz. So you know the story, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, we got the Torah on the 7th of Sivan. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Mount Sinai, was there for 40 days, came down 40 days later. They had made a golden calf. He broke the luchot. On the 17th of Sivan, he went back up to pray that Hashem should not wipe us out. And then Hashem forgave us, and he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, go back down and come back again with a new set of tablets, and I'm going to give you the Torah again. So he went back up to Mount Sinai on Rosh Chodesh Elul, and he came down 40 days later, which is Yom Kippur. Okay? The Day of Atonement, right? Like a friend of mine pointed out that the word atonement, if you break it up, it's at one mint. The idea being that it's more than just forgiving, it's being back together as one. at 1 minute, right? Kapara. Right? Slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. We once explained that. We say that in the davening and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we say slach lanu, mechal lanu, and kaper lanu. So it's like 3 stages, 3 levels of kapara, 3 levels of forgiving. So, for example, somebody, let's say, steps on my toe and he says slicha. So that means when I say, okay, Tov, and I forgive you, right? I forgive you. I'm not going to hold it against you, but the next time I see you coming, do you mind walking on the other side of the sidewalk, on the other side of the street? In other words, I want to keep my distance from you. I forgive you, but then there's mechila, which is I forgive you and I'm willing to, to sort of be close with you again, but kapara is where we're back at 1 the way we were before anything was wrong. Okay?
Doesn't the word words are covering over? Chaper?
It also means to cover over, yes.
How?
וחפרת אותה מבית, like when Noach was making the ark, right? It says וחפרת אותה, you should cover it with pitch.
Also, the Aron of that Moshe Rabbeinu was in, right?
Yeah.
So how does the covering up connect with being at 1?
It's like well, when you're doing that, you're bonding again. Okay. So, אחרי כשמשה רבנו שבר את הלוחות ב-17 בתמוז, הכל נראה חסר תקווה. When he broke the luchot on the 17th of Tammuz, it looked like we were without any hope. ואז בראש חודש אלול שוב עלה משה רבנו להר סיני למשך 40 יום. Then on Rosh Chodesh Elul, Moshe Rabbeinu went back up on Mount Sinai for 40 days. HaKadosh Baruch Hu natan lanu et haTorah mechadash, and God gave him the Torah anew.
What is the word mechadash? Why is it
Mechadash. And no, he didn't give him a new Torah, he gave it to him again. Thank you. Okay, Mechadash.
This relates to what you said before. We learned this about the Torah that you were talking about, the Mashiach and the Mashiach. But this time, when you learned it again, it was the most meaningful Torah you ever learned.
Okay.
Even though you learned it once before. The second time was more powerful than the first time.
Oh, very good. Now you put it well. Yeah.
But is it the second time? Or
אבל הפעם, but he's saying, אבל הפעם, Rav Shlomo says that, but now, this time, זה היה הרבה יותר עמוק, it was much deeper. כי בפעם הראשונה, so in what way was it deeper? So he says, because the first time, כשמשה רבנו היה למעלה בשמיים וקיבל את התורה, the first time that Moshe Rabbeinu was up on the mountain receiving the Torah, כנראה המרחק בין שמיים לארץ עדיין היה גדול מדי. So apparently, the distance between heaven and earth was too much for the people. כל כך גדול, it was so big, such a big gap, שלמרות שמשה רבנו קיבל את התורה בשבילנו, that even though Moshe Rabbeinu received the Torah for us, איכשהו לא הרגשנו בזה, somehow, even though he received the Torah for us, somehow we didn't feel it. הרגשנו נטושים, we felt abandoned, בודדים, alone, מיואשים in despair. ובעוונותינו, and in our transgressions, עשינו את עגל הזהב, we made the golden calf.
What is the word? I don't know. After what do you mean?
Miyuashim. From the word Yeush, giving up hope, despair. אני בטוח שברור לכם, I'm sure that is clear to you, Shafilu b'shash shasinu et ha'egel, that even while we were making the golden calf, lo hifsaknu la'amin b'Hashem. We didn't stop believing in God. K'vi she'omerim rabotenu, like our rabbis teach us, רק חשבנו שאנחנו צריכים אמצעי מתווך. We thought that we need a medium, an agent. מתווך is like an agent, right? So really we made the golden calf not to replace God, chas v'sholem, but rather it's probably a piece of lemon or something.
Yeah, it does look like that one.
There's lemon in there.
That's why this has
That's why I
nothing
was
in it.
offering you that one.
I didn't realize you're giving me from a different book.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, man.
So we thought that we need an agent. In other words, we felt distant. The gap between heaven and earth was very great for us, and we felt that we weren't able to relate to Hashem directly, and we thought that we need some kind of a medium. So we made the golden calf.
When they told Moshe, you tell us the Torah, because if we keep hearing Hashem, we're going to die.
Right. So in the Sefer the Kuzari, which is a very, very important Sefer that was written by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi around the same time as the Rambam, and you can get it if you go on Wikipedia, it'll tell you all about that Sefer. And so he has the Sefer set up like the king of Khazar, who eventually, by the way, did convert. But he has the Sefer set up as the king inviting a priest from the church and an imam from Islam and a rabbi, and he asks them all kinds of questions about faith and so on. So the story is that at the end of all his discussions, he asked the priest whether to choose between Islam and Judaism, which one should I choose? And he said, choose Judaism. He asked the imam if I were to choose between Judaism and Christianity, which one should I choose? And he said, choose Judaism. And he actually converted, and many of the people of his country converted as well. And they lasted for about, it was like a kingdom that he had, and it lasted for well over 100 years. Eventually they were conquered by the Mongoloids, I think. In any case, that's not the history you could look up yourself, but in this book, the king asks the rabbi, how could it be that 40 days after the Jews were given the Torah, we made a golden calf? So the rabbi gives him an interesting answer. He answers the question with a question, right? And he says, and what if instead of making a golden calf, it would have said that we built a synagogue? Would you still have the same question? And the king says, no, it would be totally understandable to me. So the rabbi says, it's the same thing. In other words, back in those days, the familiar form that was used when one wanted to pray, the familiar form was a golden calf. In other words, it was always, in other words, for sure for the Jews, be in touch. For sure for the Jews, it was never seen as a replacement of God, but it was seen as a kind of a medium. Okay?
Is this what they worshipped in Egypt?
It was familiar from Egypt also, yes. Now, so then, so what you need to understand is in what way could a synagogue, could a shul be similar to a golden calf? And in what way could a shul be idolatrous, chas v'sholem, right? So one thing is that, for example, if a person thinks that God is in the building, so to speak, more than he is outside the building, right? If you think that God is fixed to a particular location, that is idolatrous. Okay? Hashem is the same everywhere. And if you think that that you have to behave, that you can behave one way outside and you have to behave a different way inside the temple, it's also somewhat idolatrous. So he asks, so if that's the case, how come we're allowed to have synagogues, right? And he says, "Mipnei achut ha'am," for the sake of the unity of the people.
That's a big kinus, and it's not
Beit HaKnesset.
It's right, but it's not Beit HaMikdash. And it's not like to replace Beit HaMikdash. It was formed as a place to unite the people, like a community center at first.
But you can say the same thing about Beit HaMikdash.
Same thing is true. Same thing is true about Beit HaMikdash in a certain sense. Now, Chas v'Shalom, right? But yes, in our history, there were those who put idols into the Beit HaMikdash, and the so one has to be very careful with these things. Now, so now in the Beit HaMikdash, you had the centerpiece, and the Holy of Holies was the Aron HaKodesh, right? And on top of the Aron HaKodesh, on top of the ark, were the two cherubim, the kruvim. So what makes that kosher, right? And in fact, the at the end of Parshas Yisro, Parshat Yitro, the parsha where Hashem is giving us the Torah, it says, "Lo tasu niti Elohei chesed Elohei zahav." Don't make any idols of gold or of silver with any gods of gold or of silver with me. So Rashi tells us an interesting parish. One second. So Rashi says, one second. I'm going to turn this around. Okay, good.
It's going to be so considerate. I'm like, I'm back again.
Halavai.
Threatening.
So Rashi says, he's promising, he's not threatening. Rashi says on the verse of don't make any gods of gold or silver with me. So you're going to be surprised a little bit. Rashi says, An Elohei chesed. So Rashi says that if you were to make the cherubim out of silver instead of gold, the way you were commanded, then they would be considered to be idols. And if you were to make 4 cherubim or 3, they would be considered to be idols. You understand? In other words, what makes something idolatrous is the Torah commanding you to do it, or is the Torah commanding you not to do it? If you're doing something that the Torah commanded you to do, it's not an idol.
And also,
understand? One second. But if you were to change it, which would basically mean disconnected from the way it's, from the whole system of the Torah, the way it's supposed to be, then it's an idol.
So
If you take one mitzvah and you say, as far as, God forbid, somebody says, as far as I'm concerned, this one mitzvah, this is all there is, right? Or if you were to take out one mitzvah from the Torah and say, we're erasing this one, God forbid, right? It would also be idolatrous, you understand? It's the Torah, the whole Yiddishkeit is that Hashem is giving us a package. This is the way, this is the whole package. You can't break that apart, can't add to it, you can't subtract from it. This is the whole package. This is the way it is.
We have that in this week's partial.
That's yesterday.
Yesterday.
Right. Right.
See.
And so I see you were listening to the raining. Very good.
So because the Torah says to build 2 cherubim it's not considered a regular.
The Torah says to make 2 kruvim,
So it's not a regular.
and we didn't worship the kruvim. We
Yeah.
didn't worship. We were worshiping Hashem. The kruvim was something symbolic that Hashem wanted us to have, and why? Because God said so.
Wasn't that the way that Hashem spoke to Moshe? Through
The voice
kruvim?
came from between the kruvim. Yes. Once it was made. Yeah.
There's an expression that used avodah zarah,
Strange.
which has, I think, within it one of the keys to what you're talking about. What is exactly? If zar means if it's strange to God, if it's not what God
If
wants,
it's not what God wants,
then it's
exactly.
strange. Then it's strange and it's not
Right.
it's not
Strange
appropriate, and
service. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's idolatrous.
what the Kuzari said about that even a Beit Knesset could be in the Beit HaMikdash, you could look at it that way. You could look at it that way because it didn't say that God didn't say build me a house and I will dwell in it. He said build me a house and I'll dwell in them.
Well,
In
their midst. B'tocham means in their midst.
their midst.
In their midst. Now, there's the Beit HaMikdash. The Mishkan was at the center of the Jewish encampment. That's the Poshup Pshat. I will dwell in their midst. Okay. So the the Kuzari is saying that had we built a synagogue, since it wasn't commanded, it would have been idolatrous. That's the Poshup Pshat, and that's the straightforward meaning. Because it wasn't commanded, it would be idolatrous. Okay. In any case, when we made the golden calf, the intention was not to leave God, but rather we thought that we need a medium to connect with God. We thought that we thought that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't coming back, and we needed some kind of a medium to replace him.
Did the Bnei Israel think this way, or did the Arab persuade them to do it? I mean, were they such sinners? Like all of them? You're looking at 3 million people. Did they all?
Well, once Moshe Rabbeinu came down and broke the Luchot, right? So pretty much everybody did tshuva, but there was, the Torah says that there were 3,000 people who were not willing to drop it, and they were actually killed by the Levium.
Bnei Israel type, not the Arab.
Doesn't say who it was, but it's possible that it was all started by the Arab. It doesn't matter, but okay.
It's important. I think it's important we take responsibility and not blame it on other people. Because if they started the idea, if we accept it, it's our responsibility.
That's true. So, Aval Acharei Shenishtabshu HaLuchot, so we're on the bottom of 39. After the Luchot were broken, Acharei Shitbayashnu Vasinu Tshuva, after we felt ashamed and we did Tshuva, כשמשה רבנו שוב עלה להר סיני ומשה רבנו went back up on Mount Sinai, המרחק בין שמיים לארץ, the distance between heaven and earth, כבר לא היה כל כך גדול, was no longer so great, הייתה יותר קרבה, there was more closeness between us. Page 40, ובראש חודש אלול, עלה משה רבנו בפעם השלישית בשביל לקבל את הלוחות השניים, and בחודש אלול Moshe Rabbeinu went up a second time to get the second set of לוחות. He went up a third time. ואז זה היה כאילו הוא ממש לקח אותנו איתו. And then the experience for us was, we felt as if we were going with him. וכולנו יחד איתו קיבלנו את התורה באותם 40 ימים. 40 Yom, and all of us together received the Torah once again during those 40 days. Okay?
Not clear was Rosh Chodesh Elul the second or the third, because in the second paragraph,
was the third time.
it says
The
it's the
second
second
Luchot,
time.
the second Luchot,
Look in the second paragraph, it says, Rosh Chodesh Elul, Shuv Alav Moshe Rabbeinu L'Hasim Ala Mashiach Avim Yom.
yeah. Shuv, it means again, doesn't mean the second time.
So there was another time in between.
Yes. Okay.
So you went up 3 times?
The first time from the 7th of Sivan till Shivas B'Tammuz, the second time from
To get
Shivas
the first
B'Tammuz
Luchot.
till, right, the second time to pray that Hashem shouldn't wipe us out, right? And the third time to get the second Luchot.
I didn't know that.
Total of 120 days. Okay. I'm being hit with the sleep apnea right now. I apologize. So, page 42.
42?
Well, we're not reading the footnote there. Okay? Okay, so כתוב בספר יצירה שלכל חודש יש אות מיוחדת. Every month has a specific letter. There are 12 letters in the alphabet that I still have to find out what makes them what distinguishes them. But basically, one of these 12 letters are associated with the 12 months of the calendar.
There's a book that talks about it a lot. Not
Sefer
just
Yetzirah.
Yetzirah.
The book by Ned Borney, she explains these things.
No. Yisachar, Bnei Yisachar.
Bnei Yisachar, right? Talks about that.
That's his
He right. So
He wrote that as a Ginsburg book?
no, this is Rav Ginsburg also put out a sefer on the months, I believe.
Reb Shlomo talks about it all the time.
Yeah, a lot of Hasidic Sforim talk about it. Okay, so why don't you just read for a couple of minutes and then I'll come back. I just got to get something to my head. So somebody read out loud.
כתוב בספר יצירה שלכל חודש יש אות מיוחדת, והאות של החודש הזה היא י', והמזל של החודש הוא בתולה. אתם מבינים מה זה אומר? זה אומר
Wait, let's just translate first.
Right. It says in the book of Yetzirah that every month has its special letter. And the letter of this month is Yud. And the luck of the month, it's not what it's called, the sign,
So the zodiac sign.
the zodiac sign of the month is Virgin. אתם מבינים מה זה אומר? Do you understand what this means? What this says?
They call it in English, they call it Virgo.
Virgo.
Yeah.
It means that this month touches something within the inside of the Yud, and it's locked and signed. Gam na'ul achoti kala, gam na'ul me'en chatum. A locked garden, my dear sister bride. A locked wave, which is signed. But
What does that mean?
Or it could be a spring.
It's
signed
a
spring.
quote.
Mayam could be a spring, or it could be a type of
What does
Mayam could be a
gal
spring.
mean?
a wave. Gal is a wave. Yeah. Microgal. That sounds waves.
What did you say?
Microgal.
Right. Sign like
בחודש הזה מבינים שאנחנו כל כך שייכים לקדוש ברוך הוא. In this month we understand that we belong to.
We are connected.
It says שייכים, that we belong to Kadosh Baruch Hu, that we belong with each other. ששום דבר לא קדוש לא יכול לחצות בינינו ולהפסיק את הקשר הזה. that anything that's not holy could come between us and stop this relationship. That anything that's not holy can't come between us to stop this relationship. אני רוצה שתדעו, חברים יקרים, התיקון בחודש אלול הוא לא כל כך בדברים שעשינו לא נכון. The tikkun of the month of Elul isn't so in the things that we did wrong. התשובה המיוחדת לחודש אלול היא בדברים שעשינו נכון. The special tshuva in the month of Elul are towards the things that we did right, correctly. אלא שלא עשינו אותם עם כל הלב. Although that we didn't do them with our whole heart. That's the whole problem. הלב לא היה מעורב מספיק. The heart wasn't involved enough. אתם יודעים, לפעמים אנחנו...
What does it mean the heart wasn't involved? If one does a mitzvah, one has to...
How do we do the mitzvah?
Good question.
It's like giving tzedakah. Do we give tzedakah because the Torah tells us in Parshat Re'eh to give tzedakah? No. How do we do it? We do it with full intention that I'm doing avodat Hashem to be closer to God.
Okay, so he's asking you a good question.
What's that?
Where exactly are you?
What?
Where are you now?
אתם יודעים לפעמים.
Okay. So, what he's saying is like this. We say every morning in the davening, we say, Elokai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. God, my God, the soul that you've given me is pure. Right? And then it goes on, Ata varata, ata yitzachta, ata nefachta bi, ata mishamra b'kibi. How can I say that my soul is pure if I've done a transgression? Okay? So it's explained that there are 5 levels of neshama. Okay? They each have their own name. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. We are mostly familiar with 3 levels of soul. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. Nefesh is the part of the soul, the aspect of the soul which vivifies your body, your physical life. Ruach is the aspect of the neshama which has to do with emotions. Okay? And neshama is the aspect of the soul which is related to consciousness. So for example, doing action is nefesh. Feeling is ruach. Knowledge is neshama. Now then there's a higher level called chaya, which is described as being the soul of the soul. Okay? And then there's yechida, which is, you asked the question, Mechodia. Then there's yechida, which means the aspect of the soul that is constantly in union with God. Okay? So when we're operating here on a day-to-day basis, it's only the 3 lower levels of the soul that we're aware of in this world. Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. We're aware of action and feelings and thought. Okay?
So thought?
Thought.
Okay.
Knowledge, learning. Okay? Now, if we would be consciously aware of the Chaya and the Yechida, you would never do any transgressions. Because you would realize that no matter what the transgression might be, no matter what the Aveira might be, you would realize that at that moment that you're doing that Aveira, it's like you're disconnecting yourself from God. And who would consciously disconnecting? Who would consciously disconnect himself from God? Right? Okay. Now, there's a part of your neshama that is never involved in any transgression that you're doing. Okay? The Yechida. Okay? And, it's, for example, just to explain a little bit more, we know throughout history that when Jews were faced with the question of give your life or give up being a Jew, right? Even Jews who didn't practice anything, who weren't observant in any way, even if they were ignorant, they'd say, there's no question, kill me, I'm not giving up being a Jew. Now the question is, how could that be? And it's explained because at that moment, the Chaya and the Yechida part of the person's neshama manifests. In other words, the two higher levels of soul manifest. And it's clear to the individual that my essence is all about being connected with God. And I'm not willing to give up that connection, even if it means I have to give up my physical life. Okay? Now, what Shlomo is explaining over here concerning the letter Yud, okay? That the expression in Yiddish, das Pintale Yid, right? Which means that little Yud, the letter Yud is basically a point. Anytime you want to write any letter, anything that you want to write, as soon as you touch your pencil or your pen to the paper, you've already written a Yud. Okay? So the Yud is this Pintale Yid. It's that point of your soul connection with Hashem, that point is there, period, is there all the time. Okay? That point cannot be damaged, disqualified, or anything like that. Okay? In other words, so what Rav Shlomo is saying is, what's the connection between the letter Yud and the month of Elul? Is that we're being aware that there's nothing unholy that can separate me from being connected with God. There's nothing unholy that can separate me. Say l'chaim, l'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim. There's nothing unholy that can separate me from God. Period. Okay? And that's something that it's, so to speak, in the air, that we become very aware of that during the month of Elul. In other words, even though maybe all year long I was acting as if I was behaving not like a Jew, chas v'sholem, right? In the month of Elul, there's an inspiration of tshuva. Now, why is there an inspiration of tshuva? Well, if there's an inspiration of tshuva, that means that there's got to be something in me that can respond to that inspiration.
A form of the awakening of the Chaya and Yechida, even though it's not really asleep.
I'm careful not to say Kabbalistic things without being clear that I know exactly. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know if that's it sounds good, but but I'm not a Kabbalist. Okay. In order for something to inspire me, that which is inspiring has to have an address somewhere inside of you. Okay? I'll give you an example. You know, somewhere in Africa, there's somebody right now that is playing some beautiful music. Does that do anything for you? Hearing that? Garnished, right? Nothing. Because there's nothing. So you know that somewhere in Africa, someone is playing some beautiful music right now. It's just a piece of information. It doesn't mean anything, right? If you would know who it is, I'm doing a good job. I'm the one who's tired. I'm doing a good job on everybody else. If you would know who it is, maybe you would feel more emotionally connected with it. If you would be able to hear that piece of music, you'd be more involved with it. If you'd be able to see what's happening, you'd be more involved with it, right? That's why people are so crazy about YouTube and Facebook and so on, because it makes the connection, right, more real. So the fact that you hear that in the month of Elul, you're inspired to come back closer to Hashem, that's because there's something in you that still responds to that.
But he's not saying.
Understand? There's a point of it. Doesn't matter how many ham sandwiches somebody may have eaten during the year, right? Chas v'shalom. He is still ready to respond to coming back to closer to Hashem. Doesn't matter if the guy just stepped out of a trefa restaurant, somebody comes up to him and says, "Excuse me, are you Jewish?" And he says, "Yes. Would you like to put on tefillin?" And the person never put on tefillin in his life. And all of a sudden he says, yes. Why does he say yes? Because there's something inside of him that has not been damaged. There's some point of connection that he has with God that is pure.
What does that have to do with the music in Africa? Someone playing beautiful music.
I was just giving you an example that, in other words, if you don't have a way of connecting with it, it doesn't mean anything to you.
So how does that Elul help us connect?
So what I'm saying is the fact that Elul does mean something, the fact that Elul does inspire you, it's because there's something in you that relates to that.
Okay.
I was giving there's pasta and there's anti-pasta. I was giving an anti-example. You understand? I was giving an example of you might know something, but if there's no way that for you to connect with it, it doesn't mean anything. Okay?
I'll give you a
he wants to say something. Hold on. For example, you tell me that there's a lot of things that are happening out there. If I don't have a way of connecting with them, if I don't have an interest, it's not going to mean anything to me. I have to have an address inside. If we speak about the Sfirot, there has to be an address inside. If we speak about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's got to be something inside of you that can relate with those numbers. Yeah.
So Rav Shlomo is not over here. It's not necessarily talking about the things that we didn't do right. He's talking about the things that we did do right, but we didn't do them with our full attention. In Kol Halev.
Right.
So
right.
What does in Kol Halev mean?
In Kol Halev means that my heart, he says, Halev lo hayam urab maspik. My heart wasn't involved in it. In other words, I did the mitzvah. You told me to do a mitzvah, put on tefillin, I put on tefillin, and when I was teaching elementary school, and let's look at the kids' faces in the morning, I can tell you who got breakfast in Kol Halev and who got breakfast because the parents knew that they're obligated to give their kids breakfast. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you can serve somebody a glass of water because the person is thirsty, and you learned in class That is that you learned about the mitzvah of hachnosis orchim, and that is very important, and you're doing it, or you can do it in kol alev. You can do it with like. As a matter of fact, just yesterday we learned in the parsha the mitzvah of tzedakah, right? We spoke about it at Shalosh Shudas. Lo ta'ametzet levavcha. Don't harden your heart, v'lo tikposet yadcha, and don't shut your hand, right? So there's two aspects to the mitzvah. One is speak nicely to the poor person. Right? A lot of times when it's a challenge when you're giving tzedakah, a lot of times you give tzedakah because like, I didn't really want to give this money away, but since you're asking for it and you put your hand in front of my face and so on, so, and I'm giving you, but that's not the whole mitzvah. The whole mitzvah is look at the person, say an encouraging word, be nice to them. Don't just say, oh, here's your half shekel and please don't bother me, type of thing, okay? That's, again, an example of doing a mitzvah with your heart or without your heart. So I can do the mitzvah, but you know, but doesn't mean that my heart is there. Yes.
Give you something to strengthen what you're saying. And that is, it says in the Shema, the first pasuk, "V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol modecha." Hashem wants us to do the mitzvot with everything we've got, not just pro forma.
Right.
The other thing I was going to say before,
but to keep it in the context of what we're talking about over here is that what Rav Shlomo is saying is that, and this I want to just sum up with this, okay, because of the time, but I want to sum up. He's saying that Chodesh Elul is not, the tshuva of Elul is not so much about the things that I did wrong, or even the things that I should have done that I didn't do, but rather, since it's connected with the letter Yud, it means to say, being in touch with, is my heart in it? I did this mitzvah. Did I do it with all my heart? Or did I just do it? What was this term that you used? Pro forma.
Forma, I mean, just for this.
As a formality.
It's a formality.
As a formality, right?
As a ritual.
It's like a lot of the people that can sort of say, hi, how are you? And what they're really saying is, please don't tell me. Okay?
If you want to know if people are listening to you, if someone says, how are you, say better. If they were listening, they'll say, oh, weren't you well? If they were not listening, they'll say, isn't that lovely? Have a nice day.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I want to say that you're talking about. If it's within you, then you can relate to it. And Chodesh Elul, you relate to it because it's within.
Because
we have this
within you.
We have this purity within us that is can never be disconnected.
Right.
So there's an expression I learned from my holy wife that if you spot it, you got it. You got it, you spot it. In other words, if it's you see something within someone else, it's because you had it within you in the first place. So it's connected.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to relate with it.
So you can relate to this, what Elul is all about, because you have it within you to begin with.
Yeah.
Does one do every mitzvah this way?
One
on a conscious, the whole day?
The holy people do that, yes. I mean, but that's why it's called avodah. It's a work. It's not something that just happens automatically. You got, like, Divrei Sahara, like Rav Shlomo said very often. Amalek doesn't mind if you put on tefillin, and it doesn't mind if you keep kosher and you keep Shabbos and so on. He just says, Amalek says, just don't tell me that you're really completely into it. He doesn't mind if you do it cold. You understand? But that's why he says, Asher korcha baderech. He cooled you down. He doesn't mind. Go to shul. Go to shul. Just don't be completely in it. You know? Don't tell me that you actually are completely in it.
So when
That's a
one
mother.
makes a bracha,
What?
when one makes
A bracha, yeah.
I've seen this several times. I haven't done it yet. A person picks up an article of food and looks at it and says bracha while he's looking at it. The Sfardim, when they make Kiddush, when it comes to Barbara, they actually look into the coast. That's doing the mitzvah.
It's again. It's the intention is to do it with more kavanah.
I'm going to be
What's the
conscious
intention?
of
Okay, so we have to stop now. I have temporary help coming. I don't have a secretary at the moment, so
the time goes by.
okay.
Would you
Okay, I just piled them up. So for a refuah shalem for
Abraham Berel
Avram
ben
Beryl,
Ruda.
not Beryl ben Ruda,
Ruda.
and also for Yochanan ben Sora, and for Tzipora Chaya Basora, and for Brucha Atma Zlatan. Hi.